Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Dave and this is the Moonshine Still Project, the channel all about DIY distilling equipment. In my last video, I put the call out to find out what you guys wanted in the way of content, what you wanted me to create. And the overwhelming response was that you wanted to see more tips and tricks and also full still builds. So I thought I'd start off with a simple tips and tricks video on 7 different ways to tell whether your keg is made of stainless steel or aluminium. So if that's of interest to you, stick around and I'll show you how. In all my years of building stills, I'm yet to come across an aluminium keg. Now that's not to say they don't exist, it's just that I haven't been able to find one here in Australia. So to perform some of the tests, what I've done is I've got some offcuts. They're roughly the same size and shape, one being stainless steel, the other one being aluminium. So these will be our substitute aluminium keg for some of the more destructive tests. But we're going to start off with a simple test, a visual inspection, to see if we can determine what the keg's made of, if there's any markings that are going to help us out. When it comes to the visual inspection, we're looking on the keg for any markings that might indicate what material the keg's made from. Now, where would we look? First of all, a common place is on the top of the keg here. On this keg, there's nothing on there, but another common place is on the top rim. And on this keg, we've got quite a few markings on here. Now, the first marking says contents 50 litres. Then it's got material, ST steel. ST being stainless. So we know that this keg's made of stainless steel. But there's also another factor here. There's the digits 304. Now 304 is a grade of stainless steel. So from a quick visual inspection, we know that this keg now is made of 304 grade stainless steel. Now, if it was aluminium, what would we be looking for? Aluminium, they're going to put a marking like AL on the keg somewhere. So we'd be looking for something like that. But generally speaking, kegs are going to be stainless steel. So you'd be looking for ST or stainless steel and then the grade 304. Another grade is 316, but very unusual to find a keg made of 316. It's normally 304. Now, this next test is the least reliable test. It's the magnet test. Now, out on the internet, you'll read different things saying that some kegs are magnetic, some aren't. Well, the fact is that most kegs are made of 304 grade stainless steel, which isn't magnetic. And as you can see on this one, the magnet doesn't stick. Now, got our piece of stainless steel here. Once again, doesn't stick. Aluminium doesn't stick. But I've included this in this video because there's so much information, conflicting information out on the internet, that I just wanted to prove that this is not a reliable way of testing whether a keg is made of aluminium or stainless steel. And just to prove it is a magnet, a piece of mild steel here and it sticks to it. So once again, aluminium, it's never going to stick. 304 grade stainless steel and it doesn't stick. So I wouldn't be relying on the magnet test, but as I said, I've included it because of the conflicting information on the internet. Our next test is a weight test. Now, it's pretty hard to compare weights when you don't have an aluminium keg. So in this instance, we're going to use our stand-in pieces. So aluminium weighs about 1/3 that of stainless steel. So there's quite a big difference in them. So we're going to put these on the scale. Our piece of aluminium weighs 231 grams. I'll put imperial measurements on the screen here. And our stainless steel, 740 grams. Once again, I'll put the imperial measurement on the screen. So by weighing a keg, we can work out whether or not it's made of aluminium or stainless steel. Now, because we don't have an aluminium keg here, I can't show you the weight of that. But to give you an idea, this keg here is your standard 50-litre keg, and it weighs 11.3 kilos or 25 pounds. Now, a similar keg to this in aluminium, therefore, would weigh about 4.5 kilos or 8.5 pounds. So that'd give you an idea. If you've got a 50-litre keg and you weigh it, if you're in the vicinity of 11 kilos, you know it's stainless steel. If you're in the vicinity of 4.5 kilos, you know it's aluminium. Now we're going to start getting into the destructive testing. Aluminium is a lot softer material than stainless steel. So what we're going to do here is the scratch test. Using just a regular key, we're going to drag it across the surface and note the difference between the two materials. So on the aluminium, drag it across the surface using medium pressure, and you can see that it's marked the surface quite visibly. Not only that, you can actually feel the groove with your fingernail, and it's actually left a little bit of fine particles of aluminium on the surface. On the other hand, stainless steel, using the same pressure and the same key, we drag it across the surface, and it barely leaves a mark. You can hardly see where the key was dragged across the surface. So coming back to your keg, you drag the key across your keg. If there's no mark or virtually no mark, then you know it's stainless steel. If you drag the key across an aluminium one, you would be able to pick where it scratched the surface and potentially feel it with your fingernail. So that's the scratch test. Now we'll move on to the next test. A little bit more destructive than the scratch test, but along the same lines, is the file test. Now we know that aluminium's softer material than stainless steel. We're going to put it in the vise, and using a file, just run it across the surface. And it marks quite easy. And it's got a sort of dull sound to it when you run the file across it. On the other hand, stainless steel, put that in the vise. Going to run the file across the surface. It's a lot harder to make an impression with the file. And also it's got a higher pitch when you run the file across it, especially on the edge. And that's removed virtually no material. Whereas one or two passes with the file on the aluminium, it's really taken some material out. So that's the file test. This next test is our hammer test. Now, it's not going to really work with the sample material that we have here. So what I've gone and done is got a stand-in keg. Now, obviously, it's not a keg. I haven't been able to find an aluminium keg here in Australia. This is an aluminium gas tank. It's roughly 45-50 litres, so similar in capacity to our stainless steel keg here. Now, all the fittings have been pulled out and it's been purged to atmosphere for quite some time, so it's quite safe. So this test involves hitting the kegs, or standing keg, with a hammer and just noting the difference in tone. Now, I'm not going to hit this keg too hard. This belongs to a customer, so we don't want to be denting this up. But I'll hit it gently and just listen to the tone. It's quite high and it rings like a bell, continues to ring for quite some time. Going to the aluminium, and it's more of a thud than a ring, and it dissipates quite quickly. So once again, the stainless steel keg, ringing like a bell, and still going, and the aluminium, and it's a bit of a thud. So that's another way of telling. Now also, if we were to perform the destructive side of this hammer test, we'd hit these quite hard, and you'd note that it takes a lot more force to put a dent in the stainless steel keg as it would an aluminium keg. But once again, you're going to need one of each to be able to compare that. So that's the hammer test. We'll move on to the next one. Before we move on, I just thought of one thing. Using our sample material, I can actually do a hammer test and show you the difference in the softness or the strength of the material. Aluminium on this side, stainless steel on this side. Now I'm going to hit it with the ball peen side of the ball peen hammer. I'm going to use the same force on both pieces, and you'll note that the aluminium will deform or show more of an indentation than the stainless steel given the same force. So here we go. Aluminium, stainless steel. Now I'll bring you in close so that you can have a look at the difference of the indentations that are there. Obviously, aluminium having more of an indentation than stainless steel. Now, our final test and most instructive test is the grinding test. Now, I'm not going to be grinding on this keg. As I mentioned earlier, it's a customer's keg, so we don't want to be messing that up. So what I've got is our sample material in the device here. I've got aluminium on this side and stainless steel on this side. Now, stainless steel will throw off a lot of sparks when you grind on it. Aluminium won't. So what I'll do is I'll grind on the aluminium first and then the stainless steel, and you'll notice the difference. So here we go. Now, I'm not putting on safety equipment for this short test, but just be aware that you should be wearing it. No spark. So it's quite clear to see the difference between stainless steel and aluminium when you grind it. Stainless steel gives off a lot of sparks, aluminium none at all. Now, I won't go into the science behind why that is. You don't really need to know that, but just need to know that if you grind on your keg and sparks come off, it's definitely a stainless steel keg. So there you go. That's the 7 different ways I use, or you can use, to test whether your keg is stainless steel or aluminium. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Now, also, the next video that I'm going to release is going to be a build on, a full build on a basic pot still. So if that's something that you'd like to see, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll get notified when that video comes out. But that's it for now. Cheers.